Hi kids, great to see you and thanks for watching. And today I'm going to talk about one of my very early learnings in general practice, and it's about depression. Today's a bit serious, but depression is serious to a lot of people. When I started off in general practice, one thing really disturbed me, that I found some people totally depressing, miserable, real pains in the bum. And I'm a health professional, well, I'm supposed to be, and I didn't know what to make of this. Then, fortuitously, they brought out a new antidepressant. I think they called it something like gloom-riddling or grumpy gone. Its proper name was meprotoline, and they promised us a little gift, nothing much, a Rupert book and a ballpoint pen, if we put a few patients on it. Now, just at that time, there was one lady who was particularly dragging me down. Every time I saw this poor lady, I thought, oh my God, not you again. I didn't say it, of course. And then I thought, well, thinking about me Rupert book and my ballpoint pen, I thought, why don't I try it on gloom-riddling? I've nothing to lose. I'm not doing anything for this lady. So I put on gloom-riddling, grumpy girl. Honest to God, kids, this lady came back 3 weeks later. She was transformed. This was a totally different human being. I couldn't believe it. I heard my own voice saying, how lovely to see you. Sincerely. As the door closed behind her, I thought, wow, I've got it. Eureka. I have found the pharmacological specific, the medical treatment for people who are peeing me off. And I was getting good results. You know, this will strengthen your nerves and build you up. I was getting great results. In fact, I was getting brilliant results. In fact, I was becoming overconfident. I was putting it in the wife's muesli, mother-in-law's bovril. Anybody who was getting up my nose, I put them on grumpy gum. Until the penny finally dropped. And this again was a eureka moment, that I was missing depression. Now, missing depression is a terrible, terrible thing to do. Depression is really, really common. It's absolutely bloody awful if you've got it. It's absolutely bloody awful if you haven't got it and you just know somebody who's got it, because it drags you down as well. And it's also very bad for your health. If you've got a depression, you're more likely to have adverse medical events. So I made a resolution that I would never ever miss depression ever again, and mea culpa, I've missed it loads of times since. But why should somebody as enthusiastic as me miss depression? Number one, when the patient comes in, it's so easy to dismiss them as a miserable bugger, a pain in the bum, because these patients are depressing. And what a transformation that was for me. Instead of being depressed by people, it presented us a glorious opportunity to try and turn their life around. Now you may say, what if they were miserable buggers? What if they were pains in the bum? Well, they end up on antidepressants with the most common side effect, delayed ejaculation. So they end up with being a miserable bum with delayed ejaculation. So, does that matter? No, it doesn't. The other thing about depression is why it misleads you when the patient comes to see you is they present with all kinds of weird things, often weird pains, weird symptoms that no way do they fit with depression. Pains, real pains that really hurt, that patients will not ever believe that it's related to the depression. But when you treat the depression, if you do it right, the pains mysteriously become minimal or disappear completely. How else do we mess up with depression? Of course we miss it, of course we do. The patient doesn't accept the diagnosis. Now what's that all about? If you tell them they've got asthma or reflux esophageal, well, anything, even a dose of gonorrhea, they're quite happy about the diagnosis. They'll go and discuss it with the whole waiting room and tell them where they might have picked it up. There's no shame in that. And that's why we've got to sell depression as a disease with all the honours of any other physical condition. And I got inspired by a colleague from the United States, two colleagues from the United States. I wrote out a handout on depression. I've rewritten it, honest to God, at least 30 times, and now it's really good. You can get it on my website, www.bernardshevlin.com, and you can find it there, and you can print it off free of charge. So you got to sell that disease, and one of the problems is that if you don't recognize that it may be depression early on, we can go on investigating them, and at the end of all the investigations, what happens? They don't say they found out there was nothing wrong. They say they couldn't find out what was wrong with me. And that's why early on in the disease you say, I think this might be depression, but I'm going to exclude all these diseases. Anything cross your mind that you might be secretly scared about, because I'm going to prove it's not that. And then we're on the same page. Otherwise, we doctors can become pathogenic agents. Yes, viral, in perpetuating their illness by a well-meaning but never-ending search for some physical cause. How else do we blow it in depression? Well, we might prescribe inappropriately. And I've only learned from you guys by getting it wrong so many times. Because there are so many different side effects from medications. I remember one case, this was a person who was an agitated depression, and I put them by mistake on a stimulant antidepressant. Guess what? An emergency house call. The guy had gone into a panic in overventilation, the hyperventilation syndrome, and frozen up, and I needed the brown paper bag trick, which I'm sure you all know. So you got the side effects are so different that you've got to tailor it to the right person. So if they're an agitated depression, you want to calm them down with an appropriate one. If they're tired all the time, no life in me, thoroughly drained, just like a wet lettuce, oh yes, I've had all that, then they want something to give them a bit more energy. Often they're right in the middle and they want a neutral one. If they've got pains, that's a whole different one. If they're not sleeping, insomnia, we got another range of drugs there. If they need help with getting an erection, there's another one there. Premature ejaculation, there's another one there. You can use a combination of those two and treat the wife's depression as well. So we have this fantastic range of antidepressants to tailor make it for the patient. From bitter experience, I've learned that I like to see the patients in 2 weeks. They won't be better in 2 weeks, but they will have improved. They'll be 50 to 60% better. And then we can adjust the medications, whatever. The idea is to get them 100%. Yes, 100%. And then they're less likely to backslide on you. And then once you've got them 100%, if you trust the patient, you can leave them even a year without review. But I normally leave it to the patient. When do you want to see us again? 3 months, 6 months, a year. Wants the 100%, provided they promise to come back. What about suicide? I think that if we give patients hope that there's light at the end of the tunnel, suicide is very, very unlikely. It's so tragic that suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. That when we work together, we can beat this thing called depression, because every moment of your life spent with depression is a moment wasted. And I believe the answer is biochemical. Now, where does that leave psychotherapy? Psychotherapy, of course you can do it as well as. But it's quite hard to get really, really good psychotherapy. I can always tell a top psychotherapist, they've got a 6-month waiting list. Now, 6-month waiting list for depression is about as useful as a 10-month obstetric waiting list. It just ain't gonna cut it. So what are my conclusions that I've learned, that we've learned together in my journeys into depression? First of all, depression is an infectious disease, and if we don't get it, it will get us. These people will go around with their miasma of misery, infecting other people with depression. Depression is very bad for you. And the interesting thing is that the corollary is also true, and this is my big learning. Depression is an infectious disease and is bad for you. Happiness is an infectious disease, and happiness and laughter are actually good for your health, and they are also infectious. My final call to arms is surround yourself with happy people and make people who surround you happy. Happy people don't hurt you. Happy people aren't spiteful. Happy people just spread that joy. We're all in this together, kids. And I do hope this podcast, even if you don't suffer from depression or know anybody who has depression, has made you just a little bit happier. Many thanks for watching. Cheers, kids.